What if I told you that one day, in the very heart of England, two children emerged from under the ground? They were unlike any others. Their skin was green. They spoke a language no one could understand and ate food that no one considered edible. This isn't the script of a Hollywood blockbuster. This is a real story, recorded in the chronicles of the 12th century. A story that challenges everything we think we know about our world. Are you ready to go down the rabbit hole? Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we will journey 900 years into the past to the small English village of Woolpit, whose name translates to Woolpit. This place holds one of the strangest and most inexplicable mysteries in human history. We will dissect the story of the Green Children, relying on the accounts of medieval chroniclers, examine every detail, weigh all the pros and cons, and try to separate fact from fiction. This story will make you question reality and look at the boundaries of our world in a new light. Before we begin, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and have clicked the bell so you don't miss our next investigations into the most intriguing mysteries. Believe me, this is just the beginning. Let's transport our minds back in time to the very heart of medieval England. Picture August in the 12th century, a time of turmoil and civil war known as the Reign of King Stephen. But here, in the remote village of Woolpit, lost among the fields and forests of Suffolk County, life goes on as usual. The air is thick with heat and the smell of cut wheat. Peasants, bent under the scorching sun, methodically work their sickles, their days governed by the age-old rhythm of the harvest. The monotonous sounds of their labor, their conversations, and the buzzing of insects are the only music of the day. Suddenly, this idyll is shattered by a cry. One of the reapers, working at the edge of the field near the old wolf pits, deep camouflage traps for predators, freezes in astonishment. His cry attracts the others. The work stops. People drop their tools and cautiously run to the pit. What they see makes them fall silent and exchange superstitious glances. From the dark depths of the pit, clinging to the edges, two small children, a boy and a girl, are climbing out. But these are not children from their village. These are not children they have ever seen before. The first thing that catches their eye and causes a wave of whispers is the color of their skin. It is not an unhealthy pale shade, but a rich, distinct green color like that of young spring leaves. Their clothing is even stranger. It is made of an unknown fabric, smooth to the eye and strange to the touch, completely unlike the coarse wool or linen worn by everyone else. The children, blinded by the bright sunlight, huddle together in fear. They look around at the bearded men and women with rough hands surrounding them, and a rapid, melodic speech flows from their lips, but it resembles neither English, nor Norman French, nor Latin. The sounds of their language are full of hissing and whistling lilts, seeming utterly alien, like the chirping of unseen birds. No one can understand a single word. For the people of the 12th century, whose world was filled with belief in fairies, goblins, and mysterious forest spirits, this scene could only mean one thing: supernatural intervention. These could be fairy children, changelings, beings from another world. The first reaction could have been fear, aggression, but something astonishing happens. Perhaps the sight of their childlike vulnerability and genuine terror in their eyes melted the hearts of the stern peasants. Instead of chasing them away or harming them, the villagers of Woolpit show compassion. The children are gently led to the village, to the house of a well-to-do peasant. The news spreads like wildfire. All of Woolpit comes to see the curiosity. They are offered food, warm bread, a piece of cheese, stewed meat, apples from the garden. But the children look at this food with disgust and uncomprehension, turning away and refusing to eat, even when clearly tormented by hunger. They cry, but they accept nothing that is offered to them. Several days pass like this. The children grow weaker before their eyes. The villagers are desperate. They don't know how to save the strange foundlings. Then one of the peasants brings a bundle of freshly picked green beans into the house. Upon seeing them, the children suddenly livened up. A look of recognition appears in their eyes. They greedily grab the beans, but to everyone's surprise, began to awkwardly break and try to open the stalks, ignoring the pods. When a woman shows them how to properly shell the pods and get the beans out, they devour the food ravenously. It was their first meal in our world, and for many months to come, raw green beans would remain the only food they would recognize. The mystery of their origin had only deepened. The news of the strange find in the fields of Woolpit quickly spread throughout the district and soon reached the ears of the local lord, a knight named Sir Richard de Calme. In those days, such marvels were a subject of keen interest not only to commoners but also to the nobility. Driven by either Christian charity or sharp curiosity, Sir Richard ordered the children to be brought to his manor. This thus began a completely new life for the brother and sister, full of things they had never seen before. Instead of a dark, subterranean world, there were high stone halls. Instead of eternal twilight, the light of day streaming through narrow windows. Instead of their familiar food, the smells of roasted meat and fresh bread from the master's kitchen. The process of adaptation was agonizingly slow. At first, the children remained wild and frightened, huddling in corners and communicating with each other in their incomprehensible language. But the compassion and patience of the household's inhabitants gradually took effect. People stopped being afraid of them and began to care for them. Little by little, watching others, they started to try new food, reluctantly at first, then more boldly. And as soon as their diet, which had consisted exclusively of beans, began to be enriched with bread, milk, and other food, an amazing transformation began to occur. The green hue of their skin, which had so astonished everyone, started to fade. Week after week, it grew duller until it finally disappeared completely, giving way to the normal, healthy paleness typical of the inhabitants of northern lands. This physical transformation became a visible sign to all that the children were leaving their mysterious world and becoming part of ours. Taking it as a good omen, it was decided to bring them into the Christian faith, and they were baptized in the local church. But here their paths diverged forever. The boy who, from the very beginning, had seemed more fragile, withdrawn and melancholy, never fully managed to adapt to our world. Perhaps he was tormented by homesickness, or perhaps his body couldn't withstand the drastic change in environment and diet. Shortly after the baptism ceremony, he fell ill and died. His short life in our world was cut short, leaving his sister completely alone. The girl, on the other hand, showed remarkable resilience. She survived. Gradually, she settled in, began to understand, and then to speak English. She was given a new name, Agnes, symbolizing her second birth into this world. And when the language barrier fell, it was she who was finally able to lift the veil of mystery over their appearance. Her story, retold decades later to chroniclers, is astonishing. Agnes recounted that she and her brother came from a place called the Land of St. Martin. When asked where that was, she replied that our sun never shines there. Their world was immersed in an eternal twilight, similar to how it is for us after sunset. But it was not a lifeless darkness. Everything around was bathed in a soft, diffused light, the source of which she did not know. And most importantly, all the people who lived there were just like her and her brother. Their skin was green. At this stage, any modern, skeptical audience would ask a reasonable question. Where did this story even come from? Perhaps it's just a beautiful but fabricated legend, a local tale passed down by word of mouth around the fireplace, growing more elaborate with each retelling? Maybe it's just a medieval equivalent of an urban legend. That would be the simplest explanation, were it not for one irrefutable fact. The story of the Green Children was meticulously recorded, not by one, but by two independent and highly respected historians, chroniclers of their time. The first to document this case was Ralph, the abbot of a Cistercian monastery in Coggeshall. He was an educated man whose task was to maintain the Chronicum Anglicanum, the English Chronicle, a detailed record of significant events in the country. To him, this was not a fairy tale, but a historical fact, worthy of being mentioned alongside the battles of kings and church councils. And most importantly, Ralph of Coggeshall cites his source. He writes that he did not hear this story from random peasants, but received it firsthand from Sir Richard de Calne himself, the very knight who had taken the children in. Furthermore, Ralph notes that the grown-up girl, Agnes, worked for many years as a servant in Sir Richard's household, which makes his testimony even more compelling. This is almost a direct line from a participant in the events to the chronicler. The second source is perhaps even more important for us. This is William of Newburgh, a canon and historian known throughout England for his critical mind and skepticism. In his foundational work, Historia Rerum Anglicarum, the history of English affairs, he often mocked superstitions and was distrustful of tales of miracles. And yet this man, this medieval skeptic, dedicates an entire chapter to the story of the Green Children. He openly admits that for a long time he considered the story a fabrication and did not want to include it in his chronicle. But, as he himself writes, he was overcome by the weight of so many and such worthy witnesses. This means that in the 12th century, the story was so widely known and confirmed by so many trustworthy people that even the leading skeptic of the era could not ignore it. It is thanks to these two records, made in different parts of England by different authors, that the story of the children of Woolpit has moved from the realm of folklore to that of a historical enigma. So, we have a documented fact of a strange event, but a fact does not provide an answer. Over the past 900 years, the inquisitive minds of historians, doctors, and researchers have proposed numerous theories trying to ground this fantastic story and explain it from a rational perspective. Let's examine the most convincing ones. Theory number 1. Flemish immigrants and chlorosis. This is perhaps the most popular and well-developed scientific hypothesis. In the 12th century, England was literally flooded with immigrants from Flanders, modern-day Belgium. They were skilled weavers and merchants, but the local population treated them with suspicion and hostility. After Henry II ascended to the throne, the Flemish faced persecution. Many were killed, and their communities were destroyed. Imagine two small children whose Flemish parents have just been killed. In a panic, they could have fled and hidden in the vast and dense Thetford forest, which at that time was not far from Woolpit. This forest was known for its ancient flint mines, an entire network of underground passages. The children could have found refuge there. This theory elegantly explains several mysteries at once. The unknown language? It could have been a Flemish dialect, completely unfamiliar to the inhabitants of Suffolk. The strange clothing? The typical attire of Flemish weavers. The story of a land of eternal twilight? This could have been a literal, distorted childhood memory of living in a dark forest or in the gloom of underground mines. But what about the main point, the green skin? There's an answer for that too. Chlorosis, or the green sickness. This is a severe form of iron deficiency anemia caused by prolonged malnutrition and a lack of essential nutrients. With chlorosis, due to a lack of hemoglobin, the skin does indeed acquire a noticeable greenish tint. As soon as the children began to eat properly, their iron levels returned to normal and their skin color became ordinary, which fully corresponds to the chroniclers' records. Theory number 2. Arsenic poisoning. What if the solution lies not in a tragic accident, but in malicious intent? This version sounds like the plot of a historical detective story. Let's imagine that the children were not poor immigrants, but heirs of a noble family, and they had a greedy guardian, perhaps that very Earl of Norfolk, who wanted to seize their lands and wealth. The easiest way in those days was poison. The guardian could have tried to poison the children with arsenic. However, if the dose was not fatal, arsenic could cause serious side effects. One of the symptoms of chronic arsenic poisoning is a sharp change in skin pigmentation, including the appearance of a greenish hue. As soon as the children began to eat properly, their iron levels returned to normal, and their skin color became ordinary, which fully corresponds to the chroniclers' records. Theory number 3. Children from the copper mines. There's another, less known but intriguing hypothesis. In some areas of medieval England, mining was carried out, including for copper. The working conditions were horrific, and children were often used for labor. This version suggests that the brother and sister could have been child laborers who escaped from one of these mines. A long period of working underground easily explains their story of a world without sun. And the green color? Prolonged contact with copper ore and inhaling copper dust, copper arsenate, can cause a staining of not only the skin but also the hair with a greenish hue. This condition is known as argyria. This theory also explains their weakness and sickliness, a result of exhausting labor and the toxic effects of copper on the body. Their strange clothing could have simply been work clothes, unfamiliar to the eyes of the peasants. In this scenario, their story is not fantasy, but a tragic testament to the brutal reality of child labor in the Middle Ages.
Rational theories are certainly powerful. They give us a sense of control, placing this strange story within the framework of our known world. But what if that framework is too narrow? What if the story of the green children is exactly what it appears to be at first glance? Evidence of contact with something that lies beyond our understanding. Let's set aside skepticism for a moment and consider the versions that stir the imagination and force us to look at the universe in a new way. Visitors from the hollow earth. Let's listen closely to what Agnes said. She spoke of an underground land where there is no sun, but an eternal twilight reigns, a world where all people have green skin. Her words, almost verbatim, described the concept known as the hollow earth theory. This hypothesis, though considered entirely pseudoscientific, has captivated the minds of mystics and dreamers for centuries. It suggests that our planet is not a solid sphere, but a hollow shell inside which exists an entire world with its own internal sun, its own atmosphere, and perhaps its own unique civilization. In this context, Agnes's story ceases to be a fairy tale and becomes a geographical description. Could the children, while herding their flock, have accidentally stumbled upon a thin place, one of the legendary passages leading from the inner world to the surface? And that enchanting ringing of bells that lured them. Perhaps it wasn't music, but some kind of energy vibration or technological signal that briefly opened this portal between worlds, throwing the children out and forever cutting off their way back. Alien contact? Let's move from the depths of the earth to the depths of space. For many modern researchers of anomalous phenomena, ufologists, the story from Woolpit is a classic case of paleo contact, a visit from aliens in the distant past. Look at how surprisingly all the details align with modern depictions of aliens. Green skin. This is the archetype of the little green men that firmly entered our culture in the 20th century. An unknown language, obviously extraterrestrial. Strange clothing made of an unknown material, perhaps a type of uniform or a lightweight spacesuit. Rejection of earthly food, a consequence of a completely different biology and metabolism. In this version, the entire story takes on a science fiction hue. The cave Agnes spoke of could have been anything: a disguised entrance to a crashed ship, a malfunctioning teleporter, or a sampling beam that accidentally transported the children from their world to ours. Their appearance was not a miracle, but an accident. Fairies and elves from Celtic folklore. However, to understand how their contemporaries perceived this story, we don't need to look to space. We just need to look into their own minds. We, the people of the 21st century, see the world through the lens of science. The people of the 12th century saw it through the lens of faith and myth. To them, the world was an enchanted place. Forests, hills, rivers, all had their guardian spirits. And parallel to the human world, there existed another otherworldly realm, the world of the little people, of fairies, elves, and the Shidhi. According to Celtic and Germanic legends, these beings lived underground in hollow hills, and their world was one of eternal twilight. And very often they were associated with the color green, the color of magic, nature, and the other world. Therefore, for the inhabitants of Woolpit, there was no mystery. They saw what they already believed in. Before them were not aliens or sick children, but genuine changelings or visitors from the fairy realm who had accidentally broken through the veil between worlds. And this version, however fantastic it may seem to us, was the most logical and natural one for them. Conclusion: the legacy of the green children of Woolpit. So who were they? Lost orphans or Flemish refugees whose skin was colored by a terrible disease? Unfortunate victims of a devious poisoning plot? Or envoys from a world hidden in the depths of our planet, from another dimension, or from a distant star? We have been asking these questions for 9 centuries, and it is likely we will never have a definitive answer. The mystery of the green children of Woolpit is securely hidden by the mists of time, having transformed from a real event into a beautiful, unsettling legend. But what makes this story truly immortal and important for us today is not just its mystery, but its astonishing human aspect. Just think, in the cruel, harsh 12th century, during a time of civil war, famine, and superstition, the peasants and the local lord, when faced with something utterly incomprehensible and alien, did not show aggression. They did not kill the strange children, did not exile them, seeing them as devilish spawn. They showed compassion. They sheltered, fed, and tried to care for them. This act of mercy shown to the other shines through the centuries brighter than any solution to the mystery. And today, if you visit the small English village of Woolpit, you will see on the town sign an image of a wolf and 2 small figures with skin the color of leaves. The legend has become a coat of arms, a part of the place's identity. It serves as an eternal reminder that our world may be far more complex, profound, and amazing than we are used to thinking. This story continues to inspire writers, artists, and all of us, forcing us to ask again and again the ultimate question that drives humanity forward. What if? What do you think of this story? Which of the theories seems most convincing to you? Or perhaps you have your own version? Write your opinion in the comments below. I'm very interested to know what you think. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to seek answers even to the oldest mysteries. Until next time.